Go in a Hyperloop?
I wouldn't be one of the first on it, but I might go on it once it's confirmed as actually working right.
If you could explain what the Hyperloop is, that would be helpful.
I'll explain because I've got in my cynical state, I've got opinions about it. So Hyperloop is effectively a vacuum sealed tube, and you are inside a capsule which is riding on air bearings or some magnetic bearings, so therefore frictionless. If you can reach rapid speeds, and because there's no air in the tube, so you've got no wind resistance, and you're not actually touching the rails, you're basically going really, really, really fast. So it'd be an amazing sort of mode of transport. So you could go from location to location far faster than your bullet train that we could do currently now.
So it's a new conceptualization of the Jetsons.
Yes, it's effectively monorail, just that everyone wanted in The Simpsons. Yeah, so it's just another thing. However, what I dislike about it is, just like many things that seem to be created nowadays, it'll be really efficient. It'll get people to work faster. It'll get, it's all good for productivity. You'll be able to go from this city to that city. It's like, again, it's wow, yay, getting to work faster. You'll be able to, it's like, it's not that impressive. I mean, it will change things, but it's nothing that's going to make people go, life is better for everyone. This is like, we can now hop here and go there. I can carry my laptop with me and get to work in that city and come back home. It's like, look.
Yeah, and it's not guaranteed to be implemented to a location near you in any time soon. Like, my area is still waiting on a train. So,
exactly.
I mean, when's the Hyperloop coming?
Yes, we've got these ancient technologies. We still need to go on.
Don't forget that the government will do their best to tax everyone that uses it anyway.
Exactly. So, as a tech, fantastic, great, cool. No reason why we shouldn't, but big picture, it isn't really anything.
See, I'm going to take the opposite. I'm a avid traveler. I love to go places, but I live in a country that is miles from everywhere and apparently doesn't exist to some people. So if I wanted a weekend away to Europe, I've got to plan it weeks in advance, have a whole day for traveling there, have a whole day for traveling back, and then deal with jet lag while I'm there. So it's an impossibility from here in Australia. Whereas if this Hyperloop thing came in, I could live in Spain and then commute to work in Sydney and then go for a weekend in Los Angeles, and like that. If that was possible, that would be incredible.
The whole thing, you want the whole mode of transport, we want to make it faster and faster and faster so that it comes instantaneously, all right? But think about it, the whole internet, what is to say? There wasn't no Skype set up before, and the whole holographic experience has already been set up before, and we are already in that holographic experience.
I'm not a fan of the I'm not a fan of the whole we live in a simulation idea. I think that's I don't think that is a really good interpretation of reality, because as we've had many of our discussions when it comes to absolute perception and reality, so like life and the universe is far more complicated, and this whole idea that we're just literally brains in vats and running a simulation it doesn't gel with me. I mean, even Elon Musk has now reneged on that. He doesn't believe in that theory anymore, that it's a simulation anymore. And if Elon thinks it's good, then it must be right. But at the same time, the reason why it's so easy to take that simulation idea and use it in a very negative way against all humans, because it could really take the human aspect away. Think about it. We're all a simulation. So is the person next to me real? Do I need to worry about them? You take that to an avenue which really could be quite destructive to everyone.
And then it becomes even worse where morals get thrown out the window because, hey, Brad's not real. I'm just going to go punch him in the face because it's not a real thing, Like,
that's right. Yeah, like everything is an illusion in the sense that if I shoot myself, to me, everything ceases to some respect.
I mean,
it doesn't. But that is just my perception. I'm not going to say you guys suddenly vanish out of the thin air either.
I mean, this is the whole premise of Westworld. Like, if you guys have seen that TV show Westworld, where essentially it's a theme park with robots that are simulated humans, but it's a place where there's no consequences. So in this world where it's based on the Wild West of the US, normal people go on adventures and they happily pick up guns and just start shooting and killing and raping and doing all these horrible things. In the mind, they're thinking, oh, it's a simulation, so it's not real, it's not affecting anyone. I can release the darkest and deepest desires that I have, which could be to do terrible things that, as humans we normally suppress because of things like morals, of things like consequences. And potentially that could be what happens on Mars.
Yeah.
If you think about it, we send a whole bunch of people to Mars. They're essentially cut off from the Earth, and they could feel like, all right, well, we can do whatever we want. We're on Mars, bitches. So let's
What's fascinating about that? You'd have a breakaway colony, breakaway government, breakaway people. They could say, hey, capitalism on Earth didn't work out very well. We'll go either total hardcore commie, or we'll be socialist or something like that, or develop some other system we don't even understand. Or they could be absolute anarchy and just slaughter each other. Who never knows? So it's interesting when you pull the yoke of control away from people, where there are no consequences. How many people actually take a moral approach, and how many people just go, yep, pants off, people. It's all on.
That's a good point, Spira, because the whole idea of the simulation theory, it can be interpreted in two different ways. One is the fact that you lose all humanities, empathy, feelings, emotions, and all that sort of things. Then the other aspect is you take a step back. You take a step back from the wheel of survival mode. That's what the other implications of this theory is, where what it's saying is you are playing a game which is you are thinking this is survival is the ultimate game, and you are playing it so real, so serious that you don't want to believe that it's not serious.
Okay, but then we're running into the whole mysticism thing that Atish always goes on about, which is basically the whole idea of Maya, the illusion that what's the perceiver and the perceived. Well, it's basically, okay, fine. Then rather than playing in the game and being so sucked into it that all there is just what's in front of me, you do take that step back and say, I am a consciousness in a human body in a world that I'm perceiving. So there's that. But is it a hologram? Is it an illusion? It's sort of real too. So this isn't even like a scientific discussion anymore. Now this is metaphysics. This is kind of pushing. This is where a scientist actually ends up trying to be too reductionist and trying to say, we can bring it down to some basic level. And I don't think it always works.
So the real question here is not are we going to Mars, but are we really going to Mars?
Are we really in Mars already? That's the other.
Or have we already been there?
Well, exactly. Okay, so we have electrogravitic propulsion. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. So electrogravitic propulsion is another way of basically powering our spaceships, and it's effectively like anti-gravity engines. It's infinite thrust. It doesn't require fuel, like burning solid state fuel to actually get things. It's an entire different level of propulsion. The theory is that potentially it came from Roswell, that it's actually going back to a conspiracy theory episode, which could be alien tech, or it may not be. Either way, picture propulsion using electrons and gravity and stuff like that to actually push things through space without carrying masses and masses of fuel. With that tech, and we already have it, we could have already done it. We could have gone there to anywhere and to Mars and back. It's just that it wouldn't be available to the public. It'll be a military thing. It'll be some secret covert thing that's going on. So maybe we have been, and we are going to Mars now because that's what we've been told that we're doing.
It goes really back to that past sort of simulation. But what I find amazing is the whole self-conscious part of the human, the ability to reflect back on itself. That's what I think. The whole thing is where you are able to feel that you are happy and to know that you're happy. The whole thing is that when you going and exploring to the inner world, you find that there's two worlds and it's running simultaneously. So there's an internal world and there's an external world, but there's that barriers has broken down. So the flow of energy coming from worlds is one now. This is where I think the ability of the brain over millenniums or thousands of years of evolution has gone through that to know that it is able to reflect back on itself and know that it might have done this in the imagination that it has, that they can think up of all these sort of models and theories and everything that is available and to reflect back on it. That's why the whole game aspect comes into play, because it can think to itself, this is a game, or it can think to itself, this is serious. That whole aspect is just fascinating.
Well, I guess the theory is thoughts have people don't have thoughts. So if you take it in that point of view, that's the idea. You can reflect on your own activity, you can reflect on your own thoughts, you can reflect on where inspiration comes from. Consciousness first, then comes the realization of consciousness. So
it's a blessing and a curse, because so you can know, you get a feeling of you're happy and you're happy. Then you get a feeling of sadness and you still have to feel the sadness. But most of the time what happens is when you get that feeling of sadness or whatever it is. You don't want to accept that feeling. That is the signal most thing. Like the thing is like, oh, I have to run away from it. The flight or fight mode is constantly in there. But if you let go to that moment and let it flow through, it will come back again. But it's just that we constantly put ourselves in that sort of wheel to make sure that we then do that.
So this is, I think, looping back to what I was talking about at the start of this podcast, this is probably the primary driver for those people that have decided to sign up to this Mars One project. They've got feelings of sadness that they're trying to escape, and the grass is always greener on the red planet, I suppose. So, whilst it might make more sense for them to maybe see a therapist, instead they're taking a trip to Mars and changing their entire world. And I mean, it's both ways, right? It's not just about sadness, it's also about fulfillment.
Yeah.
People feeling unfulfilled here because they want to be the first billionaire to get people to Mars, and that's the only way that they can feel fulfilled. But instead of just accepting that, hey, I'm Elon Musk and I built Tesla, it's fine.
Yeah, because it can be interpreted two different ways, right? It is a drive. It can help you innovate. You can sort of use that like frustration as a way to come up with a solution to the problem. But at the same time, it can cause mayhem to you in the long run because it's constantly saying, you're not good, you're not good, you're not good. And you're constantly sort of pushing it. So there's two ways that Elon Musk, that's the thing, that we are humans, as we are at the end of the whole supply chain. We the product of nature that has gone through and through, and we have developed this self-consciousness that it can help us, but it can also give us burden and anxiety constantly because we always saying to ourselves, we're not good. And that's the drive for innovation as well, but it's the drive for anxiety as well. With that, I think we can wrap up this podcast. We did a bit of outer exploration and inner space exploration. I hope you guys liked it. Feel free to add any comments in our social media. And adios, amigos.
You have been listening to the Lunchtime Special Podcast. Subscribe and like us on iTunes, Castbox, Spreaker and SoundCloud. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Or visit us at lunchtimespecialpodcast.com. Until next time.
No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. That as men busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacency, men went to and fro over this globe about their little affairs, serene in their assurance of their empire over matter. It is possible that the infusoria under the microscope did the same. No one gave a thought to